Hello, web. Hello, nurse. I don't know why I do that. Just it makes me happy. I like being happy. Anyway, this is my next video blog, and this blog has to do with America and our politicians' determination to stuff so-called free trade down our throats. I haven't really had a lot of time to devote a great amount of thought to free trade, because this is one of those things that is a very complex issue, and our relationship with other relations in relations to other nations is an extremely complex issue. And so I've really not tried. I've purposely tried not to have an opinion on this, in the hopes that we would find some way to get it right. But recently something came to my attention that I find incredibly disturbing, and regarding our trade relations with China. China is a country that I view that we have an uneasy alliance with. We understand them, but but they're the sleeping dragon, and one day they could pose a great threat to our country, to my country, to my way of life. And when I say this, please, I'm not talking or addressing American Chinese. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm not even talking about Chinese citizens. I'm talking about the country, the government of China. So when I say China, I am addressing the government of China. I'm not addressing its population, its people, our American Chinese who have immigrated here and are living a good and prosperous, fruitful life. But I'm talking about the Chinese government. And what came up that was really disturbing to me was that we actually do trade drugs, that they import drugs. Now, I'm not sure if other Americans were aware of this or not. This was common knowledge, because I am pagan. I'm proudly pagan, and I'm very much holistic. And so therefore I have very little to do with our country's hospitals. I have very little to do with our country's medical system, our prescription drugs, or anything like that. Now, however, my parents are not pagan. My parents are Methodists, and they are senior citizens, and they take a number of different drugs to alleviate different ailments and pains and things like that. And for all this time, I just simply assumed that the drugs that they took were made here in our country, where it should be. Now I'm finding out that actually, no, China actually imports drugs into our country. This is intolerable. This is intolerable. And for reasons that should be very clear and very apparent. And if these reasons are so apparent to me, I have to wonder what our politicians were thinking when they allowed this to happen. Should we have trade with other countries? Yes. But you know what? I would really even question importing drugs from England. And I love England as a country. I was kind of like iffy when it was like with Canada importing drugs into our country. Okay, and allowing them to import drugs into our country. And these are nations that we have a solid bedrock foundation with as allies. Okay? China is like, and we're allowing them to import drugs into our country. And people, there was I was reading an article on Yahoo, and they were saying, well, this could cause a number of problems for some obvious reasons. One of them being, what if there was an anthrax attack on our country, and if we had an anthrax attack and China's the only country that's actually making the cure, we wouldn't be able to actually get this, to our nation's population in time, because we wouldn't be able to get it from China in time in order to handle this. Okay, I'm sorry. That is a good example, but how about this for an example? Okay, what if the Chinese government, now knowing that it is allowed to import drugs into our country, decides that it's going to mess around with the ingredients in these drugs? Maybe a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and knowing that, also knowing that it's going to get to certain people in high places that take these drugs. This could cripple our country. This could literally cripple our country, allowing countries that we have an uneasy alliance with to import drugs. No, that should be a non-starter. That cannot be allowed. That should be a no right there. You want to import cars? Fine. You want to import toys? Fine. You want to import dog food? Fine. You want to import certain types of food? I question it, but fine. Okay? But when you're talking about drugs that people depend on for their livelihood, and then we depend in turn on those other people to make correct and right and lucid decisions, I want those drugs made here, at home, in the United States. No, you cannot farm out that. That is one thing that you cannot farm out. Any more than I would purchase ammunition from another country. Can you buy ammunition from my country? Sure. I don't want to buy ammunition from your country or become dependent on ammunition from your country, because if I go to war, I want to make sure those munitions are going to work. And the only way I'm going to make sure those munitions work are if they are made in my country. It's the same thing with drugs. This is a common sense matter to me, okay? People that have heart conditions. Many of our nation's political leaders, okay, are in that age group where they might have some type of physical ailment. And they are perfectly happy with the label saying made in China. No, this is just the highest level of stupidity, the highest level of irresponsibility. And then they want to block Canada from importing drugs into our country because the poor and the needy can get them at a better price. And yet you want to give China a carte blanche? You want to stop Canada, our country's neighbor, who we have a great relationship and a great alliance with for decades, if not centuries, but you want to fight to allow the Chinese to be able to put, the Chinese government to be able to import drugs into our country. This can't be. We have to open up this debate, and we have to stop this, because they're allowed to import certain things, yes, but there are certain things that they just cannot be allowed to import until we know for sure that for certain that, you know, Taiwan is going to be free and will be able to govern itself for free without the Chinese shadow over it. You know, I'm not sure how far China wants to expand. You know, they have Hong Kong now. You know, there are just too many questions in regards to the Chinese government and its policies for them to be allowed to import drugs into our country. Any type of drug into our country. That's my rant, that's my thought, and may the all bless America rock out.